What's happening? What's going on, y'all? It's Ty here with Sam, TYT Politics. We're just making sure. You're going to check the shit and see if it's working? I asked him to check.
I haven't got a notification yet.
I asked him to check his stuff. He's texting somebody, man, to get out of here. So,
Okay.
we're doing a live right now talking about what happened. You want to turn it down? Talking about what happened in Sutherland, Texas, with the mass shooting. I'm sure everyone knows, but just to kind of give you a recap, the perpetrator name is Devin Patrick Kelly. He was 26 years old, former Air Force airman. I guess in 2012 he was discharged from the from the Air Force, from the military. They don't really specify why, but that's what happened. So it seems like, it doesn't seem like. So what happened was, this guy goes into a church on Sunday, and in the middle of service just starts shooting people. And right now, what I can tell from what I've been watching on the news is that the guy seemed to have a vendetta against his in-laws or something, because his in-laws, they attended the church. Fortunately, his mother-in-law, father-in-law wasn't there yesterday, but unfortunately, his ex-wife's grandmother was there, and she was killed. One of the 26 people that were killed in the shooting. I just kind of want to get into, like, where do we go from here, because this shit is so frustrating to me. When we talk about, gun violence in America, gun regulation, everyone wants to shy away from it. I mean, President Trump said today, this is not a gun issue. That's literally what he said. This is not a gun issue. 26 people being killed by an AR is not a gun issue. Then what issue is it? You know what I'm saying? They need to, the real thing is the fact that the NRA has donated so much money to his campaign, and the NRA is controlled by the gun manufacturers. You have gun manufacturers who have to sell a certain amount of guns. And so what they do is they have an agreement with the NRA. Okay, listen, we want you to make sure that you're promoting, that you're on your website. The NRA has a legislation page, and just to kind of give you some context on how they operate. Back in 2000, I think it was 2006 or 2007. The state of Washington tried to pass legislation to make sure that gun owners, lock their guns up when they're not home. So kids play around in the house. They'll get a hold of the gun. You know how kids are. You don't want anyone to accidentally shoot a friend or themselves. So they was trying to pass legislation in the state of Washington to just make sure that gun owners lock their guns. Right? That's it. Just lock your guns. We don't want to take your guns away. We just want to lock your guns. The NRA fought that vehemently. Like, what this is exactly what was on their page, on their legislation page on the internet. You can probably look it up if you can go back that far. But they called this law, they called it the Burglar's Assistance Law. This is what the NRA was calling this law, just to lock up your guns to make sure your kids won't get it. They called it the Burglar's Assistance Law because if you have your gun locked up and someone breaks in your house, it's going to take time for you to get your gun, and so that could put your family in harm's way. And they made commercials and did a whole lot of promotion, and obviously this law did not pass. 2 months later, a young kid named Eddie, I can't think of his last name, was killed by a friend of his because they were at his friend's house playing with their father's gun, and this kid died. And that could have been prevented if this law was put in place. And this continues to happen. I can't believe that it's only been a little over a month since we had the largest mass shooting in Las Vegas, and now we're dealing with another shooting, which is the largest in Texas, of 26 people being killed. You know what I'm saying? And all you hear from politicians is our prayers and our thoughts go out. Our prayers and our thoughts go out. We need to stop fucking praying. Like, fuck that. Obviously, praying ain't fucking working. So if praying ain't working, then we need to start writing some issues down on paper and passing legislation that we can have common sense laws. So regardless, if a person is has mental health issues, or just in a moment of motherfucking anger and they want to go kill someone, that these type of people aren't allowed to just get guns. You can go down the street and get a gun easier than you can probably find some weed in certain states that is not legalized. It's crazy. It's absurd to me that we just can't pass certain laws and all this. And every time, this is everyone that I've been listening to on TV today. This is exactly what they say. I think the Attorney General of Texas was on the television saying, "Oh no, we don't need new laws. We just need to enforce the laws that are in place." How absurd is that? You know what? I wonder if they said, you know what, murderers, we don't need to have the death penalty, or we don't need to have 3-strike laws. Guess what? We'll just enforce the laws in place. No, they didn't do that. They said, okay, because criminals are going to break the law anyway, so why not just force the laws? Because if we have more strict gun laws, guess what? A criminal is going to be a criminal. What if they had that same rationale when they passed the 3 strikes law? They knew it would be absurd to say, you know what? We're not going to pass a 3 strikes law, or we're not going to pass some law to prevent crime because a criminal is a criminal, and they're gonna break the law anyway. No, we're going to make stricter laws. So if they do break the law, they're gonna have the time is going to be way more than they expected, which then will probably encourage people not to break the law. That sounds logical, right? So you have better laws in place for gun owners. So and better restrictions and background checks so that people won't break the law or the wrong people won't get the gun. It makes sense. But you know what? It really doesn't make sense to their donors, because their donors want to sell guns. So we just use that talking point saying, people that break the law are going to break the law anyway, so why pass new laws? Just enforce the ones in place. Yeah, it's absurd. It's easy to do it when you want to mass incarcerate people of color, but when we're talking about law-abiding gun owners, and by the way, majority of law-abiding gun owners I think it's like 80%, 85% of membership of the NRA want better gun laws. They do. It's the NRA. They're not even looking out for their constituents. They're only worried about their relationship with the gun manufacturers, because the majority of NRA members would like better gun laws, because no one wants to have to go through this. You know what I'm saying? No one wants to have to wake up in the morning and find out that someone in their family is killed, or someone in their neighborhood is part of this massacre that happened the night before while they were asleep, or scared to go to church. You know what I'm saying? But no one really gives a fuck about that. You know, when I was doing this documentary called Gun Greed, it's called Making a Killing, Guns, Greed, and the NRA. We had a screening for the film, and at that screening were victims of Sandy Hook, victims of Virginia Tech, and victims of Sandy Hook, victims of Virginia Tech, and victims of Aurora. They all came to the studio at Brave New Films to watch this documentary. And because we interviewed all of them for the film, and we were sitting there talking, and every one of those parents or surviving family members were now activists. They were provoked and pushed into activism because of what happened to their family. And it's great. I think it's great that they're activists now. But how many more people has to be pushed in it because something like this has happened to their family? It shouldn't have to be that way. We shouldn't have to wait till someone dies or something traumatic happens, and then we're like, oh, we need to change the laws. We need to get that shit together. We have to start holding our representatives accountable for this shit. Because if they're in the pockets of the NRA and they're more concerned about their agendas than ours, then we need to get their ass up out of office. That's the whole thing. That's why it's never a good time to talk about gun legislation, gun regulations. It's never a good time. It's always, quote unquote, politicized when you talk about that. You know why? It's not politicized. It's easy. We can talk about a terrorist that came in New York right now last week. We can talk about that. We're going to get in their ass. We're going to hit them 10 times as hard as soon as it happens. This is the most racist, backwards-ass country. I swear to God. You know what I'm saying? We have to get it together, man. No one, I hate this. And luckily, I mean, I've dealt with gun violence my whole life in a different aspect, but still, no one wants to have to deal with this. No one wants to, when it can be regulated, when things can happen. Yeah, people have mental issues, but people just do dumb shit sometimes also. You know what I'm saying? And no one wants to have to, I don't think anyone wants to have to shoot someone if someone approaches them with a gun because they're mentally challenged. But if we were able to put laws in place where it can be harder, I mean, it's crazy that the guy was able to get a gun and they didn't even see everything that was in his background. And you know why that is? Because Congress in the 80s, I'm not sure what year, I think it was 1986, passed a law. It's called the Firearms, hold on. Because they passed this law to make sure that the ATF, who deals with all, gun regulations, gun registry, gun stores, they have all this paperwork. They can't have a database for it. So that means they can't digitize it. It's illegal for them to digitize this. So if the ATF, for them to try to find a gun or who owns a gun or some backgrounds, they have to go through all this paperwork. You can go online and look at it. It's so absurd. It's 2017. And they can't. It's illegal. The Congress passed this in 1986. It's called the Firearms Owner Protection Act. Firearms Owners Protection Act, which protects gun owners from being in a sort of database that lets you know how many guns they own, where the guns came from, and things like that. They all have to be written in paper. It's all written in paper. Half the paper, they didn't have floods and everything, and half half of the documents you can't even read are barely legible. You know what I'm saying? This is all in part. This all came from the NRA. This is nothing that Congress. This is the NRA working with the gun manufacturers giving the NRA money. NRA gives the politicians money, and they pass this shit through, and then we deal with this. This is crazy. This is scary. We're talking about in less than 2 months. In less than 2 months, we had 2 mass shootings. And all they can say is our prayers and thoughts go out. They really don't. They really don't. What's prayers and thoughts without action? What is that? There's no action coming from Congress. There's no action coming from our president. All the action is coming from the NRA. And the only thing they want to say, oh, we need to put more money in mental health. Yeah, but that's not the only issue. It shouldn't be that easy to acquire a gun. You shouldn't be able to go into a gun, those gun shows, and as a private owner. So if I go into a gun show and I say, oh, I'm a private owner, I collect guns, and I have a host of guns, maybe 200 guns. I can go into a gun show without a license or a permit because I'm a collector and sell it to anyone because I'm a collector. Those are the type of loopholes that allow people that may have mental health issues or any other issues get a hold of these guns and be able to do this shit like this. And then now these families, their lives are never going to be the same. You know what I mean? I mean, does this shit have to happen? Does it have to happen to like a congressman for them to get it? I mean, what has to happen? Normally, that's what happens. You know what I'm saying? A lot of Republican congressmen been against gay rights until they found out that someone in their family is gay, and they're not like, oh, okay, well, hey, it's in my family, so now I'm for gay rights. I think gays should be treated like everyone else, as they should be. Like, why should something like that happen? Why can't you get your mind together before something tragic happens in your family? For you to get, oh, we actually need to do something about these guns. It's crazy. And now you have, what did it say, it's 4% of the population?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? 4% of the population is now gone from this town. What do you think?
I mean, yeah, I mean, everything, I agree with everything you just said. One of the things that people got to keep in mind, too, is that, even though these people are criminals, the ones that, attack and shoot up innocent people, a lot of these guns are legal. These are legal guns that they're getting generally from family members, like, Columbine and Sandy Hook and the Batman shootings and everything. Like a lot of these shootings are legal guns that they obtained legally, or the family obtained legally. So it's not like, oh, there's like a heavy black market of guns that's getting into the hands of these people, and it's getting out of hand. It's like, no, they're literally walking generally to their parents' attic or basement or wherever they keep their guns in a case.
Online.
Yeah, and they get it. Also, think about how easy it was for the Florida killer, the guy who shot up that club. What was it, like 50 people or something, or 40 people or something?
Yeah, it was 49.
Yeah. So he was on a no-fly list. Yeah. He literally could not get on a plane, but he was able to still purchase a semi-automatic assault rifle.
Yeah.
Like, I understand there's a lot of arguments that, generally the right wing has and the NRA has for, keeping certain gun laws in place. I get the arguments.
What? You get the argument that what?
I get the arguments that, laws shouldn't have to work based on somebody breaking the laws, so that means that my laws and my rights have to be taken away. But to look at these things objectively and to say there have to be certain things that we have to work on, at the very least, a guy should not be able to get a gun and still be able to, and not be able to fly a plane. If he's not able to get on a plane, he should not be able to have a gun.
Period.
Things like that, just those things are just so naturally objective. Like if you don't believe that this system needs work, then I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah. But I think to go to your first point, Doug, I don't, you're not taking away anybody's rights or changing laws for people to have better gun regulations. Like no one's saying take guns away. No one is saying that. I'm not saying that.
They are saying,
and a lot of
saying to get rid of semi-automatic assault weapons.
Who needs fucking assault weapons?
I couldn't agree more.
But still, they
are saying.
Yeah, that's a minor thing. Yeah, who needs that shit? Who needs that? If you want to hunt, use a rifle or a bow and arrow. Yeah. Shit, it doesn't matter. Like you don't need an assault rifle.
I mean, my whole thing is that a few people fucked it up, and that's just the way it goes. I don't care if you use this for hunting or for fun or whatever.
But does it fucking? Yeah, but does it? I guess I hear you, dog. I just.
No, we're on the same page.
We're on the same page. I just think fuck who fucked it up. Like these laws should have been in place. Period. Point blank. Sure. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. It's been fucked up for the longest. You can look at back during Reconstruction when they were just killing off black. That was not having gun regulation. Yeah. I mean, shit. It should be better regulations of guns. We use the Second Amendment like it's just like there's nothing you can do. That wall cannot be penetrated for some people. Even just having laws in place. I'm not with taking anyone guns. If you want to have a gun, that's cool. I don't want one. And that's just my personal. That's my personal belief. I don't. At this point in my life, I don't think I need it. I've owned one. I've owned a few before in the past. I don't think I need it. But at the same time, there should be laws in place. Like that's so simple. That's so basic to regulate. You know what I'm saying? To regulate guns. You know what they did? You know what they did back in the day when they first started making cars, and people were dying. They didn't put a seatbelt in. You know what I'm saying? And then people are driving in traffic and hitting each other in intersections. They put lights up. They didn't take away the cars. They put lights up and said, okay, you know what? At an intersection, we should have a red light right here so these people can go past, so people won't get in accidents. They adjusted for the time as they started to do infrastructure. As more people got cars, it was like, you know what? We need to have seatbelts. And once they got seatbelts, they say, you know what? We need to put laws in place to regulate seatbelts to make sure people have their seatbelts on while they're driving, so that they can be safe. They didn't say we're taking away the cars. You know what I'm saying? Because too many people are dying. They made laws and they put things in place to make sure that people that we can kind of take the toll of death down as far as drivers are concerned. That's the same thing that that everyone is saying. Put laws in place, enforce the ones that's in place, because even the ones that's in place ain't good enough. Enforce the ones that's in place and look at those and see how we can, what other laws that we can use to then kind of complement the ones that's already in place, to have better regulations to make sure that, in addition to people not being able to get guns, that you can find out where guns are coming from, who owns the guns. You know, not having to wait 2 or 3 years to be able to go through all this paperwork with the ATF. They're understaffed. And they're still trying to take away money from the ATF right now. Trump is. You know what I'm saying? So it can have less gun regulations. I'm telling you, it's all bad. And no one cares. I don't give a fuck if they're talking about thoughts and prayers. They don't care. Only thing they care about is who putting money in their pocket. Because they think that they think they're insulated. They really do. Because they're in Congress, they think it can't happen to them. Even with the congressman being shot in Virginia, still, they look at it, oh, that was a Bernie crack. That was alt left. That's all they want to, it's all to get away from talking about guns. I couldn't believe when Trump said, I couldn't believe it. I guess I could. Trump said, this is not a gun issue. This is a gun issue. I'm looking at, like, there's been, in 310 days, there's been 307 mass shootings. Think about that. In 310 days, up to today, it's been 307 mass shootings. And it kind of sounds like, probably, what the fuck are you talking about? But, so, how we judge a mass shooting in America and statistics is 4 or more people being shot, period. So that could be a gang war. Somebody gets shot. 4 people get shot. That can be any type of situation where 4 or more people get shot is considered mass shooting in America. So it's been 307 mass shootings in the past 310 days. So that means we had 3 days off. In almost a year, we had 3 days off. It's always been someone being shot. And if you can look at them, half of the guns are probably been purchased illegal. Half of them been purchased legally without any proper background checks. I mean, it's so nuanced. It's not nuanced what we can do about it. I mean, it's nuanced in how people may get guns, but there's ways that we can prevent some people from getting guns. This thing don't have to happen. People keep saying this has to happen. This is type, hey, we can't prevent it. We absolutely can. You don't want to prevent it because you want the NRA to have your back. You want an A grading with the NRA, so then you can be elected in office, because, you know, when you say we need gun legislation, you're scared of the NRA. The NRA goes in on your ass, and then they try to tell people that, oh, they're trying to take our guns away. You need to stop being scary and start growing some balls and put legislation that's going to protect your constituents and protect Americans. Because we shouldn't have to have this meeting and meet like this every 2 months or every month. This is absurd and it's ridiculous. Because this can be any one of us. It can be any one of us. Thank God it hasn't been, but it can be any one of us. And it's not even about it being us. I don't want it to happen to them. I don't want it to happen to someone I don't know.
I mean, I also do think that it's also how we judge, how we handle and classify these crimes. You know, like, for instance, for this one, oh, he had a mental, disability, he had a mental disorder or whatever. But then when a black guy or a Muslim guy does a mass shooting, it's like, oh, well, there's problems within who we're letting into this country, and this is a terrorist, and this and the other. But then when it's a white guy that does it, of course, we've all heard this, but it's very much true. They do not classify this white person as a domestic terrorist. And, a lot of people say to me, okay, Sam, but really, what does it matter about the labeling? Who cares about the labeling? The labeling is important because it's how we handle the situation. The government is going to be way more inclined to be handling a terrorist situation than, oh, it's just some nut who had mental problems and he shot up a church. Exactly. No. This was calculated. This was planned, like the Dylan Roof thing. Like, they wanted to make him out to be, oh, he's just some crazy nut job. No. Whether or not he has mental problems or not it's irrelevant. He planned. Yes. He planned to attack this specific church. This church that was a well-known African-American church, and went and attacked it. So
didn't they take him to McDonald's or Burger King?
Yeah, they took and they took him to get Burger King afterwards. Yeah. So it's like, but if we all got into our brains, no, that guy is a goddamn terrorist, then maybe our whole handle on the situation would change, and not just only our handle, law enforcement, the DOJ, everything. Like, I think we would be a lot more hands on deck if we start classifying these people for what they are. And they are terrorists.
Domestic terrorists, exactly. I read a tweet yesterday. This is when it first happened. It was like, some guy from All Right something. I forgot his name, but he's an asshole. He said, the shooting was at an all-white church. I can't wait to see the race of the perpetrator. I was like, that's where you are right now? I'm like, in my head, I was thinking, I'm like, only white people shoot up churches. It really doesn't happen. Like, historically speaking, it's not. Historically speaking, in this country, you look at mass shootings at churches, it's been white people from America.
Mass shootings in general.
In general, yeah, period. In general. But in churches, like, real talk,
schools, movie theaters, everything. It's
period.
It really is primarily white people,
period.
So.
And no one wants to call it exactly what it is, and that's domestic terrorism. Period, point blank. For whatever reason. Back in the 80s, they used to do it. They hated the government and the Unabomber. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, exactly. That was domestic terrorism. But we're scared for some reason now to call this anytime it's a white American, it's not domestic terrorism. I mean, call it what it is. It's not about white or black. It's about right and wrong, man. You know what I'm saying? And if you don't realize that, dog, we're gonna stay in this corner. You know what I'm saying? We're gonna stay stuck. We're gonna stay here, and we're gonna be making more videos and crying more and sending out more thoughts and prayers when we need to be sending out motherfucking papers and pens so they can write legislation to get some better laws in place so that we won't have this so much. We're the only country that has mass shootings in the way that we do. We're the only country. Period. You look at any other country that guns are just, that are illegal, like in London. They don't have mass shootings. They may have killings, knives and shit. They don't have mass shootings. Nothing like this. And like I said before, I'm not into taking nobody guns away, but we do need to have better regulations, man. Don't wait until it happens to you to change your mind. It's not that serious. I mean, it is that serious. Like, don't be so stuck in your political views or your party allegiance that you can't see outside of that. That's absurd. If you're a patriot and you're about this country and everything that it would like to stand for, then you need to stand for the people.